Alright, welcome to lesson 4, solve quadratic equations by finding square roots. So to start off, probably curious about what a quadratic equation is. Well, here on the left I have the linear equations that we've worked with. On the right I have the quadratic equations that we're going to work with. What I want you to do now is with your group, I want you to stop and pause the video and just look at these two and see if you can mark any similarities or differences. So go ahead, pause the video and do that now. Alright, now let's take everything that you wrote down, you thought about, and let's go further into this. So, quadratic equation, we're going to have two formulas that we're going to work with. We're going to have this ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a, b, and c are all numbers, and a cannot equal 0. And then we have this case right here where b equals 0. So b can equal 0, c can equal 0, a cannot. When b equals 0, we get ax squared plus c equals 0. Because our b being 0 made our x term go away. Well, and a and c are both numbers still, and a can still not equal 0. So I'll just add that in there as a side note. Well, this second equation is what we're going to be working with today, in this lesson. We're not going to worry about this yet. So, here's an example with b equals 0. We don't have a b term. We don't have that x. We have the x squared. Well, all we're going to do is we're just going to solve this like it's an x until we get to a certain point. So on the left, if this is 3x squared equals 90, well, if it was just 3x, I would divide by 3. Dividing by 3 gives me x squared equals 30. And then here's where it's different. Now, if we recall, how do we get rid of a squared? How do we get rid of a square root? Well, they're opposites. So if we have the square root of something, if we had the square root of 4 and we wanted to get rid of that, we'd square it. Well, if we have something squared, we take the square root, and that makes our squared go away. So the last step in all of these is going to be taking a square root. So we get x equals, and then the square root of 30 you can't simplify, so it's just x equals square root 30. But there's an issue here, isn't there? When I take a square root, I don't just get one answer. I get two answers. So remember that. We're taking square roots, so we should be getting two answers. So 2x squared minus 8 equals 0. We're going to add 8. So 2x squared equals 8. Divide by 2. We get x squared equals 4. We take the square root. And then we get x equals plus or minus 2, because the square root of 4 is 2. Now, probably wondering, why do we get two answers? Well, looking at the problem tells us. Let's go back here and look at the linear and the quadratic. Now, it's probably one of the things that you noticed when I asked you to look at this the first time, but there is something here in these equations that tell you how many answers you're going to get. We know with a linear equation we're going to get one answer. With a quadratic we're going to get two answers. So what tells us that? So go ahead and pause the video and discuss with your group what you think it is. Alright. If you notice with this, we have ax equals b. What's the power of x here? Well, Well, it's 1. We have 1x. We look over here, what's the highest power of x with our quadratic? Well, it's 2. Well, whenever we had a linear and the power was 1, we got 1 answer. Whenever it's quadratic and the power is 2, we get 2 answers. And just to help you, if you see something that has this, you're going to have 3 answers. So what it tells you is that the highest power with your x tells you how many answers there are. So that's the definition that we're going to go with now. And we'll formalize it and it'll make more sense later as we go deeper into this idea. But for now, just notice if it's a quadratic and you see that x squared, we're going to be getting 2 answers. So let's go, and here are 4 examples for you to try. So I want you to go ahead now, pause the video, and work through these with your group. And here are the answers to those examples. And again, you'll notice that each one of these has a positive and a negative answer. So there's always 2 answers. So go ahead, pause the video, and review this with your group. And after that, the video is over.